It is now my great pleasure to introduce the 2017 laureate, the Richard H. Driehaus Prize, Robert Adam. I have known Robert for almost 3 decades, and in that time, I've observed up close the breadth of his impact in the many spheres and arenas that determine the quality of our natural and built environments. In addition to his practice, he has fostered dialogue between positions that have now become polarized, or have been polarized for many years: tradition and modernity, the global and the regional, the political left and right, the public and private realms. His seminal work is fostering dialogue. It's illustrated by a number of efforts. Among them, he established the Traditional Architecture Group within the Royal Institute of British Architects. This is a formal recognition by the official organization of the profession in the UK that traditional architecture continues to play a mainstream role in the shaping of the built environment. Under his leadership, along with his colleagues, his practice, Adam Architecture, has transformed communities and with magnificent buildings and thoughtful master plans. His numerous books and essays, most notably Classical Architecture, A Complete Handbook, 1990, The Globalization of Modern Architecture, 2012, and very recently, just a few months ago, Classic Columns, 40 Years of Writing on Architecture, have been compelling voices that amplify his ideas about reconciling the various positions and attitudes that span the ideological spectrums. In addition to these well-informed scholarly writings, his activism through organizations such as the International Network of Traditional Building Architecture and Urbanism have spread the ideas of how traditional cities and their buildings can resolve the many issues facing growth and development in the regions and localities around the globe. His deep understanding of the wide effects of globalization on architecture and urbanism reflect the complexities that touch local and world scales, and how these in turn affect the quality of life for the vast majority of the world's inhabitants. The collateral issues that arise from globalization, such as rapid urbanization, refugee housing, and mass migrations, might be contained to specific places around the planet, but the degradation of the Earth's climate and resources will eventually affect everyone. His reasoned approach and inclusive leadership have brought to the table a diverse group of people to participate in a rational discussion based on knowledge and faith that a critical consensus needs to be reached if we are to have a humane and civil future. Above all, he believes that since the future is not written, that it is our duty to accept our inheritance with gratitude and humility and shape it with reverence and empathy, so that those who come after us might have the opportunity to do the same. For the extraordinary work that he has done to facilitate dialogue, promote classicism and urbanism as a comprehensive and integrated intellectual approach that will help in the resolution of the critical issues of our time, along with the designs and his built work that reflect his ideas, the jury of the Richard Driehaus Prize selected Robert Adam as the 15th laureate of our prize. I would like to now ask Richard Driehaus to join me on the podium to bestow the Driehaus Prize to Robert Adam. That's right.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. I am honored receiving this. I mean, this is the obvious thing to say, but it is absolutely true. I have to be quite careful. I have to say it's not the peak of my career, because that means it's only downhill from here on. So I have to say that it's a high point, in fact, a very high point, in fact, possibly the highest point so far. It is a tremendous honor. I'm never moved to silence, I have to say, so I'll carry on. And of course, I have to thank Richard Driehaus, without whom all of us sitting here, this wouldn't be possible. Without the previous 14 laureates, it wouldn't have been possible, and for the future ones. And what a movement Richard has gathered about him in doing this is really remarkable. So again, I must, in a very personal way, thank Richard. I must also thank the jury who've elected me. It's been very nice of them, thank you very much. You've elected me to actually the most exclusive architecture club in the world. It gets less exclusive as time goes on, of course, but of course it is very, very exclusive. And I really am honoured to be a part of it, and many of the others I know, and many of the others I will get to know. So I have time to say a few words, well, quite a few actually. But first of all, I really would like to say it's a pleasure to be with so many friends. That's what everybody is. And there are so many old friends here, and a number of them whom I spoke to yesterday, and I just hope I get time to catch up with them all, and if I don't, I'm terribly sorry. Because it's wonderful to have so many people. I'd like to spend half an hour with everybody. And I've made new friends. I mean, an example actually, Liz, Jeffrey, Dan and Tim, with whom I spent a really great week, had great fun working on a documentary which was excellent. I was very nervous about it till I saw it. You know, I didn't know what everybody else had said about me, but they took out the nasty bits, so that's all right. And by the end of this weekend, I hope I've got many more friends. I met many people. So all of you, in your own way, are part of what's really important to me in my work and my life. And the important point here is if you are a dedicated and driven person, which I sort of think I am, there's no real distinction between my work and life. Ask my wife Sarah, and she'll tell you all about it. Her tolerance of the utter mixing of these things has made everything possible. So I really have to thank Sarah hugely. But what's really important in the end is people. And it's not just all of you, important as you are, it's all people. I mean, I do what I do, not just because I like it, which of course I do like it, otherwise I wouldn't be doing it, but I also do it because I know, and I know from good empirical evidence, that traditional architecture and contextual urban design are what most people like and desire. It's not just like, actually, it's what improves their daily life, it supports their identity, it gives them pleasure. And so in the end, within the limits of what an architect or urban design can do, what else is there that's important? That's what's important. Now, I'll give you an anecdote. When I was with the film crew, we went to see a small house, which I hadn't seen for probably more than 20 years. Quite a modest house, actually, particularly by American standards. And I met the tenant, who I didn't know. It was let out by my client. And she said that she and her family loved the house so much that they've decided not to buy anywhere, which they clearly afford to do, but they wanted to stay there. Now, I have to say, that was worth more than the praise of 100 architects. In the end, that's what it's all about. So when people ask me what I'm trying to achieve, people always ask you this kind of question, and, you know, what's the great plan, and so on and so on. I have to answer it, of course. And I could say I'm moving on the classical tradition. I do say that, actually, from time to time. Making the traditional city relevant for today, or managing new technology, all that stuff. You're expected to say this kind of thing. But actually, in the end, it's for thousands of strangers who are going to go on into the future, beyond my lifetime, who may never know my name ever. But if they gain something from what I've done, well, then they'll put me in the ground happy. And that's actually what I'm trying to do. And it's a great pleasure sometimes when you see what other architects have done. You never know who they are. This is the great privilege of being an architect and an urban designer. People from the past can speak to you who you don't know. But there are other people. Along with my 5 fellow directors, who are also friends and colleagues, we employ around about 80 or 90 staff. I can't remember the number. Keeps changing. And working with these people is one of the great pleasures of my working life. I mean, I can go around and I just have a wonderful group of people. They come from all over the world. We all work together. We learn together. We have life classes run by Diana Yu, who's somewhere in the audience, I think. He's here at the moment. We have discussions. We have staff-to-staff lectures. And we party together. I won't go into that too much. But without my colleagues, without all the people I work with, none of my work would be possible. And there's another group of people who are important, and these are my fellow professionals. Now, it's well known that the kind of work that I do, and most of us do here, isn't much liked by most other architects. I go further, some of them really hate it. But it would be a big mistake to confuse professional difference with personal relationships. And unfortunately, that happens quite a lot. I mean, I had one person who said, well, I quite like the chap, actually. He said, let's meet for a drink. He said, I'll have a look at some of your work first. Oh, bloody hell, but that's really dumb. You may disagree with people. It doesn't make them nasty people. They're doing their best how they see it, even if you don't agree with it. And generally, we have more in common than our differences. We have clients that don't pay. We have lousy builders, we have budgets that don't work. We all have that. And I'm proud that I count among many of the people, friends, many of the people from the opposite end of the architectural profession, including, just as it happens, the current president of the Royal Institute of British Architects, and the next one is the president-elect. I've just known them for a very long time. So now for 40-odd years, I've written articles and books, and I've debated with these people. And generally it's all quite cordial, to get nasty sometimes. And perhaps rather arrogantly, I think I've won some of the arguments. So does this make any difference? No, not really. Major points I think I proved: the true nature of modernity, the persistence of tradition, etc. The things I think I've dismissed come up in debate again and again. It's really very boring, actually, and actually dealing with them is tediously easy. But I'm afraid that I've long since realized that most people don't think logically. They think with their emotion, they think with slogans, and they defend themselves in groupthink. And that's just the way it is. But I'm still dedicated to the importance of tradition. In fact, I must be. So I must want it to be at least accepted, and then hopefully understood. It won't be understood unless it's accepted. I don't want what I do to be a minority activity, which to some extent is at the moment. And I found the best way to do this was through personal relationships and engagement. It's not going off in a huff and being nasty. There is a saying that you catch more flies with honey than vinegar. So I've been on national design review panels, I've chaired some, I've been elected councillor of the RIBA and for a time honorary secretary. I've judged lots of architectural awards, and I've given prizes to modernist buildings. I don't like them, but actually I can still assess them whether they're good in their own terms, and so on. I may think that makes me a traitor to the cause, but there you go. I like to think it started to bring in results. The current president of the RIBA and the next have formally agreed to integrate traditional architecture more fully into the institution. They've formally agreed that, and they are doing it. Some architectural journalists, who are also friends and fellow writers, are no longer hostile and are really sometimes now quite supportive. That didn't happen 10, 20 years ago. George Samrose-Smith, my fellow director, who is here, has been finding in debates in multiple universities that the students are really becoming quite sympathetic. Now that, again, that's really quite unusual, even some of the staff. So there's a change taking place. I suspect that in reality, we're seeing the start of a really seismic shift in opinion, which by its nature will be much wider phenomenon than architecture. Big things are happening, well, happening all the time, but right now, we're at a pivotal moment. And maybe I've had a small part to play, and if I have had a small part to play, I'm very, very proud of it. But right now, to finish, I am particularly proud to have won this spectacular award. But I'm not just proud for me, oh, I am, of course. I'm proud for my family. I'm proud for my firm. I'm proud of my fellow directors, Nigel Anderson, Paul Hanvey, Hugh Petter, George Samuel Smith and Robbie Carr, who supported me in all this and are carrying on the mission. I'm proud for all my staff, not just my present staff, but my past staff. There's a few of them here, and they keep telling me, well, various things. But I'm very, very proud for them too, and I hope they're proud as well. And I'm also proud for INTBAU and for Harriet Wemberg, without whom really INTBAU is a growing organization, really would not be possible. These are all people who made this possible, and they all share it with me. And I think actually I share it with all of you too. I hope you're all friends, and I hope we all remain friends, and I hope it's a growing body. And I hope that the importance of what we all know we're doing becomes more widespread. So thank you all very much indeed.